Hello, dear students. How is your day going and how is life with you? I miss you all. Today, I welcome you to our 14th lecture. Our 14th lecture is going to be about drama. You know that our course, Introduction to Literature, includes a lot of literary genres. So far, we have covered fiction, poetry, and now we shall move to drama. As you probably know, you have a course allocated to the teaching of drama, but this is just an introductory part that establishes the foundation of your study. So, this is going to be a brief analysis of the elements of drama, and inshallah, when you want to study drama, you will have everything in details. So this lecture is going to be about elements of drama, and the following lectures are going to focus on one play, which is Oedipus the King by the great Greek writer Sophocles, and after that we come to the end of our course this semester. Okay. Now, let us start by asking ourselves, what is drama? What is drama? And actually, we want to know how is drama different from other literary forms. Drama is, after all, a piece of literature or writing that is presented almost through dialogue. And I think this is the most important thing that I want you to keep in mind. A play is essentially written to be acted. And I think this is the key word here, acting. A play is written to be acted, not to be read. Therefore, the play is all based on dialogue, and this makes it different from other literary forms. It's true that dialogue might be present in other literary forms, but in drama, it is the dominating characteristic and it's the most important aspect in a play. Everything is revealed through the dialogue. This doesn't mean that drama doesn't have other elements like setting, characters, plot, and even symbolism. But I want to tell you that in drama, there is no narrator. Characters are both characters and narrators. However, the way in which they are presented to the audience is different. Because unlike a short story or a novel, the play is meant to be performed in front of an audience. So plays are written primarily to be acted. Now, I think you still remember elements of fiction, and there are some common elements. Exactly like we have a plot in fiction, we have a plot in drama. In a work of fiction, usually we have something we call a narrative, and since we have a narrative, we have a narrator. Without any narrative, the work might be one level, failing to keep the interest of the audience. But this is not the case with drama. Drama is not a form of narrative. Okay. Most stories have a beginning, middle, and end. However, a play doesn't have to run in this linear order. Some work is non-linear in structure. This means that it doesn't follow a chronological sequence. You know the meaning of chronological sequence, but moves about in time. And this kind of technique might be the best thing for building tension and keeping the audience interested in the story or keeping the audience interested. So in drama, it begins at the end of the plot and then moves backward in time, scene by scene, to how it all began. Because, the fathers of drama are the Greeks, And in drama, they use the expression medias res, which means in English, in the middle of action. Starting a play in the middle is considered as the best way of starting a play. So a play doesn't have to move through this kind of process, which is beginning, middle, and end, especially when we speak about modern drama. Now, is it possible for a play to have more than one plot? Yes. You might have a plot and a subplot. Specifically in the plays of William Shakespeare, you might have a plot and a subplot. But actually, if we think of Aristotle, whom we call in Arabic Aristo, who laid the foundations of drama, Aristotle believes that there should be something we call unity of action, which means that the Greek people believed that a play should just have one plot and no more than one plot. And this is what they call unity of plot. What I'm trying to tell you is that a play might have one plot, as Aristotle wanted, or it might have a plot and a subplot. I think you have an idea about King Lear. King Lear has the plot of Lear and his daughters, and this is the main plot. And there is the plot related to Edgar, Edmund, and their father. So in general, a plot refers to the basic storyline of the play. So the plot structure can be divided into 6 stages, exactly as we saw in fiction. We have exposition, inciting incident, rising action, climax, falling action, and denouement. All right. I'm going just to stimulate you by refreshing your memory of these expressions that we studied. I think you still remember exposition, which means the introductory part of the story, and here in our case, the introductory part of the play, which tells us the necessary background that we need to know in order to understand the play, because basically the exposition refers to events or incidents that happened before the actual beginning of the play. Number 2, in drama, we need to have something we call inciting incident. You know the verb incite? When you incite someone to do something, it's like you ask him to do something or you encourage him to do something. So in drama, after the exposition, we need an incident or an event that encourages the characters to behave in a certain way. Okay? Then we have the movement towards the climax, as you still remember, probably you still have in mind the curve that I drew to you when we were studying fiction. The rising action definitely leads to the climax. And the climax is the highest point of tension when suspense reaches its peak. And as audience who watch, notice I say who watch, not who read the play, who watch the play, they feel encouraged to know what's going to happen next. So the climax is the highest point of tension. Now the climax will end with a resolution some way or another. So if you still remember the curve, we have the falling slope, and the falling slope represents the falling action. And the falling action is followed by what we call denouement, and if you still remember, we call it the resolution or the solution of the problem. Okay? So let us sum up. The exposition is simply an introductory part that provides the background information needed to understand the story of the play. The inciting incident, or the conflict, if you like, is the event that sets the action of the play in motion. That is, it's the event that causes the movement of the play forward. It's what exactly gets the story going or revolving. The rising action is a series of events, including complications and discoveries, which follow the inciting incident and create the dramatic climax of the plot. The climax is simply a turning point or the peak of a plot which holds an utmost emotional intensity of the play. The following action is a series of events following the climax that leads to the solution of the conflicts. You know, when we have conflicts have to be resolved in one way or another. The denouement serves as the conclusion of the plot in which the conflicts are unraveled, that is, in which the conflicts are resolved. And this is the ending scene of the drama. The ending scene of the drama or the play. Okay. Another element that you are familiar with is setting. Setting is exactly like in fiction. It refers to place and it refers to time. The setting includes these two elements. Of course, along with the conditions, like the atmosphere, the environment involved in the events. Now, how can a playwright or a dramatist present the setting? The setting is actually presented through visual elements related to the scenes. You know, sometimes in Arabic we use the word mashahid, and also we have costumes or the clothes that the actors wear and the special effects used in it. Like, you know, special effects could include music. Well, the setting can as well be enhanced by using viewable elements, sound effects, and music. You know, music used between the scenes or the acts, etc. So setting is actually the combination of all these elements put together. All these things are known as the setting of the play. Okay? Why is the play written? And who is often targeted? Actually, we write drama because we think of audience. And audience here is not a group of readers, like in the case of poetry or short stories as we studied. It's actually the group of people who watch the play. Because audience is the most important element of drama to be considered. You know why? I'm sure you watch films. Usually, who decides that the film is a success or a failure? Yes, those people who watch these movies. By the same logic, a play is a success or a failure depending on the performance and how the audience view the performance of the actors and view the play as a whole. So we write to an audience and we're interested in satisfying the audience and also trying to win the preference of the audience to a certain play. And it's no wonder that a lot of writers write the plot of a play while they keep in mind the groups of audience who are going to watch the play. So any playwright has in mind the satisfaction of the audience who are going to watch the play. All right. Another element that I am sure you are familiar with is theme. What's the theme after all? Yes, it's the message. The theme is actually the message that is intended to be expressed through the story. In other words, it's the main idea or the lesson to be learned from the play. I'm not saying that the play is didactic or the play should be didactic. I'm saying that any play has a theme which should be indirectly embodied in the play itself or in its action. And eventually, after having watched the play, the audience is expected to say that he or she acquired some new experience or at least learned one or two lessons from the play. You might have the main theme, and you might have also something we call sub themes. So the theme is the central idea of the play. All right. Well, okay, let's go. There is something I mentioned many times in my lectures in the days when we had this chance to meet and to have eye contact. We used to speak about genre, which is the type of play. You know that plays are not of the same type. Probably you have heard these expressions before. A play is either a tragedy, a comedy, a romance, a mystery, or a historical play, just to mention few examples of many other types of drama. Probably you are familiar with tragedy and comedy, yes? And I can tell you that there is a kind of drama that amalgamates tragedy with comedy, and this is exactly what we call tragi-comedy. Tragi-comedy. So it's really a play that has a bit of this and a bit of that. All right? Yeah. Here we come to something I'm sure you are familiar with. It's the issue related to conflict. Actually, is it possible for us to have a literary work that has no conflict whatsoever? I think you can answer. Yes, it's not possible at all to have a play without a type of conflict. So what's the conflict in a play? All right. Conflict is actually the essence of dramatic storytelling. And I think you still remember what we said when we studied fiction. We spoke of two types of conflict: external or internal conflict. Yes. All right. So what's the difference? External conflict usually involves the protagonist and the antagonist. You still remember the protagonist is the main character in the play. Traditionally, the protagonist was known in the past as the hero, and then the antagonist, who is the villain or the bad guy, if you like. The protagonist is the main character in the play, like Shakespeare's Othello is the protagonist, and the antagonist is the person who works against the protagonist or the hero. Let us say, for example, in Othello, you have Iago the villain or the bad guy. So usually if you have a conflict between a protagonist and an antagonist, this is external type of conflict. So in fiction, it is helpful to include a strong bad guy who offers opposition to the main character's drive. This type of conflict is indeed very, very interesting and exciting. Um, if you still remember, we said also we have conflict against society. Again, this is external. We have conflict against nature, and this is also external. We have conflict with fate, as we will study in our play Oedipus the King, the protagonist who tried to change his own fate. So it's an external conflict with fate. However, we have another type of conflict known as the internal conflict. And I think the internal conflict is much more exciting and compelling. And it is really the struggle that occurs in the mind of the main character. Like the character is very much like a person who is torn between two forces which pull him in two different directions. So he feels like torn between two strong forces inside of him. Like inside each one of us, we have the struggle between good and evil. There is the good side that wants you to be straightforward and to be a good person, and there is the side which tries to support the demon inside of you, or the devil inside of you. So this is very difficult. So here it's the inner demons that vie for supremacy in our hero's psyche. The inner demons, that is the inner types of conflict with the evil part of the psychology of this person. So the hero himself is fighting against himself. A good example would be Shakespeare's Macbeth, for example. In Macbeth, the ambitious knight who feels that he deserves to be the king of Scotland, and also his feelings that he should not kill anyone because killing someone is a bad sin. So there is the ambitious guy inside of him telling him to kill his own king and to be the king after him. That is to overthrow his king and to take his place. This is our hero Macbeth. Macbeth was fighting against himself at the beginning of the play. There is evil which tells him to kill his king, and there is the good side of Macbeth which says to him, "Hey, stop! Are you going to kill an old man? Are you going to kill your guest in your own castle? Are you serious? Do you want to kill your kinsman, that is your relative?" And the two forces pull him in two different directions until at the end of the conflict inside of him, Macbeth takes the evil side. So conflict is indeed the moving force of the play. Without this kind of thing, I think we will not have movement in the play. As we will start reading Oedipus the King, I think we will come across some dramatic devices. I will explain them as the need arises. But right now, I just thought of these two things which are used in drama. The first dramatic technique is soliloquy. Soliloquy. It is a speech given by the character in a play when the speaker is alone. I'm sure you have watched the play when suddenly all the actors leave the stage. You know what I mean by stage. I mean خشبة المسرح. Okay? when all the actors leave the actor alone and he wants to say something to the audience. This is presented to inform the audience or reader of what is happening in the mind of character and to give information about the action of the play. You know, I want you to imagine how the play is often performed. Um, in a play, you have the audience and you have the actors. You're not reading a novel or a short story where the narrator can go deep into the psyche of the characters. And I think you still remember that in a short story, a narrator can write 2 or 3 paragraphs just to describe how the character thinks. Of course, he has the time and the space to do so. But in a play which is performed in front of audience, how can the character reveal his thoughts? It's through something we call soliloquy. I think the nearest expression in Arabic is munajah. Okay, so it's a speech given by a character in a play when the speaker is alone. Other actors should leave the stage for him. This is presented to inform audience or reader of what's happening in the mind of the character. I think you still remember one of the most famous soliloquies in drama, which is Macbeth's soliloquy. Sorry, it's Hamlet's soliloquy. Hamlet says, "To be or not to be, that's the question." This is a famous soliloquy. Another thing that I thought you should know is aside. Aside. Aside is a speech made by actor directly to the audience, but seemingly to himself or herself. Okay, so what's the difference between aside and soliloquy? In an aside, characters do not need to leave the stage. The stage might have more than one character, but there is a character who takes aside, like يأخذ جانبا أو يتنحى جانبا, and he speaks to the audience. And seemingly he speaks to himself, but actually he is not speaking to himself or herself. He is actually, or she is actually, addressing the audience. It is always a true reflection of the character's thoughts. Its function is to reveal character. Like if the character wants to say something to the audience but doesn't want others to hear him. Notice the difference. In a soliloquy, the character speaks to himself when he is alone on the stage. In an aside, you have characters and you have the other character who wants to say something to the audience, and the function of this aside is to reveal an aspect of the character's personality. Okay? So these are the elements of drama that I wanted to share with you and to apply to our study of Sophocles' King Oedipus. Next time, inshallah, we will be dealing with Oedipus the King as an example of a play which is considered as the most famous tragedy in the entire history of drama. Written by Sophocles, who was seen as, I think, as an equal to Shakespeare, but Sophocles is Greek and Shakespeare is English. Oedipus the King is very important, and I have chosen it for you because when the famous Greek philosopher wanted to write the foundation of drama, or to lay the foundations of drama in a book, which is known as Poetics, he had Oedipus the King in mind. So he tailored the rules of drama according to his study and understanding of Oedipus the King. So I think studying Oedipus the King will help you a lot in your future when you study the drama course and when you try to understand literature in general and Freud's theories in psychology in particular. So let us next time, inshallah, start with Oedipus the king, his myth, and his story. Till we meet, thank you very much for your patience and attentiveness. Goodbye.